Francois Paulette, you're from Smith Landing, which is a Dene community about 16 kilometers from the Northwest Territory border. You're here with the former New Democrat MP from the Northwest Territories. Tell me what you noticed about Premier Rachel Notley's speech.
Well, there was a big, huge oversight. There was no mention of indigenous peoples, First Nations. We hold the key to we're going to get to the resources. The First Nations have rights and own the lands. And first and foremost, to correct history, UN Declaration of Indigenous Peoples' Rights, reconciliation to reconcile the impacts of the colonial system, but there was just no mention of indigenous people. I was very disappointed.
So this speech was all about pipelines and Albertans needing resources for this economy. How do you interpret the fact that she didn't mention indigenous peoples as part of that appeal to the rest of the country to be more charitable to Alberta?
Well, she did mention clean energy, environment, but pipelines to extract the resources in the territory that belongs to the Treaty 8 people, there is no mention of them.
How do you explain that?
How do you explain that? Yeah, it's the resources that belong to the First Nations.
Are you saying that the Premier of Alberta does not have indigenous peoples at the top of her mind when she talks about extraction?
Well, she should, because we have a treaty with Canada, and she has to recommend and also implement the treaties.
This was an important speech for her today to the National Party and with the national media watching. Why do you think she did not mention indigenous people's role in resource development?
That's hard to explain. Yeah, because I came here to lobby and say that we have to protect the waters, the rivers. The former Prime Minister has lifted all the protection of the rivers. Our river in the Slave River is not protected. I came here to lobby so we can put protections in the water, and the river, and the water, and...
So do you support initiatives like the LEAP manifesto here that suggests leaving resources in the ground?
Absolutely.
And what would you say to Premier Notley if you could speak to her right now?
If you want to talk about partnership, mention the First Nations.
Francois Paulette, thanks very much.